So today on Steam and Mud, we have a Rotorua Area Commander, Bruce Horne, with us. He will be talking to us weekly on, the big issues in Rotorua and how, police and community can work together. Hi, Bruce.
Kia ora. So this is great.
White Ribbon Campaign is coming up soon. Why is it important for Rotorua to be aware of it and also support it within the community?
Sure. So for about 10 years now, when Rotorua people have been asked what's the most important thing, this is through surveys run by the council, they've always come back number one, safe and caring community. So that's always encouraging for us because, of course, making safer communities is our mission. Our mantra these days is 4 little words: be safe, feel safe, which for 4 words actually captures and says a lot about. And it's interesting because everyone gets the be safe thing, but the feeling safe is actually really important, even though people think that sounds a little bit fluffy around the edges. But the thing is, if we're human beings and emotional creatures, and if we're not feeling safe, well, and so this perceptions about feeling safe is really, really important. So we're thinking about that all the time and we're only going to be able to achieve that by engaging with the community and talking about how we can actually work together to achieve this outcome of people being safe and feeling safe. So moving specifically to White Ribbon and why that's really important. Family violence is probably the biggest social problem that we have in Rotorua, probably one of the biggest problems we have, and I absolutely believe, and I've thought about this a lot over the years, is that if we could solve this problem of family violence, we'd actually have a better community in all sorts of different ways. Now, some of the things that we encounter is people hear about family violence and they will say, well, we accept that's a really terrible thing, but it's something that's happening in other people's lives in other neighbourhoods and not really impacting on me, which actually isn't true. So I'll give you an example. If you stop a New Zealander in the street, and this is based on Ministry of Justice research, if you stop a New Zealander in the street and ask them what is the crime that they're most concerned about being a victim of, 85% of New Zealanders will say having my house burgled, and that's understandable. So who are the people that commit most of the house burglaries? They're actually juvenile young men, some young women as well. And when you look at the background for those kids, most of them come from a background, a dysfunctional family where family violence is prevalent. Other research says that a child that grows up where they're routinely exposed to family violence, they're 66 times more likely to engage in criminal behaviour as a juvenile. And the most common manifestation of that is house burglary. So that's just one example of how this whole problem starts to spill out. Another one is that when people are growing up with family violence, they get conditioned to an unhealthy high level of violence, and that becomes their default mechanism for dealing with problems and issues, and of course that spills out into other people's lives as well. So whenever they come across something that isn't going well for them or something they disagree with, they express themselves through violence, which impacts on other people. So if we could solve this problem of family violence, big difference for the community. So the next question is, well, what do we actually do about that? And I wear this white ribbon all the time, and the white ribbon is a little idea that came out of, well, a little idea that's grown into a big idea. It's a great story. There was an awful shooting in Canada back in the late 80s, and that where over 20 women were shot by a guy that had a raging hate on against women, and of course, as it would, that started a big conversation in Canada. 2 years after it happened, there were 2 women having a conversation at a cafe with 3 men, and they were talking about this. And they said to their male friends, well, look, essentially this is a men's problem, this whole issue of men perpetuating violence. You need to do something about it. So they took that on, thought about what they could do, and White Ribbon was what came out of that. And essentially White Ribbon is about the power of conversation. So why wear the white ribbon? Because people will say, why are you wearing that white ribbon? And then you've got the opportunity to start talking about, well, this is what we need to do. The other power behind White Ribbon is, imagine yourself if you are a victim of family violence and you keep on seeing these people wearing white ribbons. It's an incredibly powerful message to you that we understand that what you're going through, we understand this is a terrible thing, we understand that it needs to stop. Likewise, if you're a perpetrator of family violence and you've seen people wearing the white ribbon, it's another subtle, quiet way of getting in their face and saying, it's not acceptable, it has to stop. And it does have to stop. And coming back to the conversations, if we can get this conversation going across the community and everybody starts thinking about what they can do to stop family violence, then it's going to build this momentum within the community and we can actually solve it. And that shifts it from being an awful thing that I don't know what to do about, where actually there are some simple things that you can do. And one of them is not being silent. So if you know that these situations are happening, and you know that people are in an unsafe situation, well, you need to speak up and you need to talk to somebody about that. Police is obviously an option, but there's a lot of community agencies working in that area of family violence, and you need to speak up and get help and make it stop.